It is now time for question period. I recognize the Leader of His Majesty's Official Opposition.
Morning, Speaker. And my question is for the Premier. Yesterday, the Premier said that he's not worried about the OPP investigation into government funds that are going to Keel Digital Solutions. In fact, he bragged that the system is working. If the system is working, why did it take 2 years to trigger a forensic audit of Keel Digital Solutions? Speaker.
I recognize the Minister of Colleges and Universities.
Thank you, Speaker. As I said yesterday, within 24 hours of receiving the results of this audit, the matter was referred to the OPP. But let me tell you what we are doing for the publicly funded system, Speaker. Over the last 2 years, we've invested almost $2.5 billion into our post-secondary system. This year in Budget 2025, which the opposition did vote down, we invested another $1 billion into the post-secondary system, our publicly assisted post-secondary system, Speaker. That's another 100,000 funded seats that have come online to all institutions, whether they're colleges, universities, or Indigenous institutes. Of those seats, over 20,000 of them are new STEM seats on top of the 70,000 STEM grads we're graduating every single year, Speaker. We'll continue to be there time and time again for the post-secondary system, whether it's with new nursing seats, new teaching seats, or new construction-related seats. We'll continue to make those strategic investments for the post-secondary system.
Supplementary, the Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, back to the Premier, but I'll add that 10,000 good jobs gone in the college sector is nothing to brag about. The only reason that the Premier thinks that the system is working is because it's letting him and his ministers run a friends and family scheme on taxpayer dollars. We now know, because the Toronto Star has also reported, that bureaucrats were sounding the alarm about Keel's SDF application, but instead of listening to the experts, the Minister of Labour hand-picked that company anyways. So back to the Premier. Why did his minister ignore the flags that were raised by experts about Keel's application?
Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the project selected advanced the priorities of government and the program, which at its core is to train people. Speaker, we know a priority of this government is mental health. Speaker.
Order.
In fact, just later this week, I'll be meeting with the Police Association of Ontario to talk about mental health for their frontline responders, Speaker. It's a priority of this government, and in some services with 20% off with PTSD, we have to do more to support them. The reality, Madam Speaker, is we have a risk assessment process for the SDF program that I developed with the ministry, where the Deputy Minister is able to deselect an applicant if they feel the risk of the project is too high. That's what I say when I say we work with the ministry to continue to improve the integrity of the program, Speaker. And I appreciate the opportunity to highlight more in the supplementary on additional programs we're doing to support mental health of construction workers, Speaker. Thank you.
Final supplementary, the Leader of the Opposition.
I mean, back to the Premier, but now it's the Deputy Minister's fault? I mean, follow along here. Endless embarrassing headlines, right? And yet the Premier just keeps digging his heels in to protect this Minister of Labour. He claims the system is working, but working for who? Not for the honest, hard-working people of Ontario, I can tell you, but for the Premier's lobbyist friends, for the Conservative Party donors, yes, for sure, you betcha, right? An audit, an OPP investigation, warnings from ministry evaluators. But apparently nothing was going to stop this minister from getting millions in taxpayer dollars to that company. So back to the Premier. Why were these red flags not enough to prevent the Minister of Labour from giving government grants to Keel Digital Solutions?
Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, as I said, it's back and forth with our ministry officials, Speaker, and over the course of successive rounds, we've implemented monthly reporting. From spot audits to now a full audit, Speaker. The risk assessment process after projects are selected that support the priorities of government and the program, Speaker. And I want to talk about another one, the De Novo Treatment Centre in Huntsville, a union-supported training centre, another program we're supporting to tackle mental health and challenges. We know it's a problem that affects the construction sector, which is why I was proud to visit it with the member for Parry Sound, Muskoka, this past summer, where we met with workers who are getting back to work faster, Speaker, driving productivity and driving this government's build agenda, a $200 billion plan that's advancing critical projects in public transit, critical projects for roads, highways, bridges, new nuclear. These are projects we're investing in that are supporting workers. The members opposite vote against each and every one of these nation-building projects. Thank you, Speaker.
Question, the Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, back to the Premier again. The Premier may not want to face it, but the Auditor General's report on this fund exposed very serious issues about how this minister is administering public funds. And every day it just gets worse. I want to remind you that the Auditor's report points very clearly to the fact that this government is using the SDF fund as a pay-to-play scheme, but that's not all. If you look on page 23 of the Auditor General's report, she warns as well about other Ministry of Labour funding streams that are administered the same way as this fund. So I want to know, does this mean the minister has his hand in all of those pots too? To the Premier, how many government funding streams is the Premier using as pay-to-play schemes?
Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, as I said, this government is supporting training of workers that will help in uncertain economic times when we've got a president south of the border leading an all-out assault on key sectors of Ontario's economy, Speaker. This was implemented in the wake of the pandemic, Speaker, and as I said, we're working with the Auditor General to continue to strengthen the program. I've implemented a number of measures as Minister to improve the integrity of the program, Speaker, and we're continuing to train people. At its core, 100,000 workers who've gained employment within 60 days or less, Speaker. It's people getting better training for better jobs with bigger paychecks. Just yesterday, I was at Union Station, Alberici, and I met Marvin, one of the graduates of Hammerheads program, Speaker, that's helping socioeconomically disadvantaged youth from across Ontario. He's now a 10-year employee working on the most ambitious public transit project in Ontario's history. We're proud to make those investments.
Supplementary.
I tell you, Speaker, it is really boggles the mind here how this minister can use working people of this province as a shield for his behaviour. It is shocking. There is a very dark cloud hanging over this government, and every single government member, every single member of this chamber knows it. The only person who doesn't seem to understand that is the Premier, right? He's the only one who doesn't seem to understand that this minister needs to go. He is digging his heels in to defend this minister while Ontario is in the middle of a jobs disaster. What is it going to take for the Premier to take this seriously and fire this minister?
Minister of Labour.
Speaker, we stand beside workers, Speaker. We stand beside them to advance their best interests. Speaker, just yesterday, I was at Rosedale Valley Bridge with BridgeCon, where I met Lewis there, Speaker, another worker I stand beside. Through Oaks Revitalization, he's gotten a second chance at life. He is now a tax-paying member of Local 183, Speaker. It's changed his life, and he's working on the critical infrastructure that they oppose, Speaker. It's no wonder organized labour has abandoned them in droves because they don't support building. At its core, that's what this is about, building, that puts these members to work, supporting the training for new nuclear plants. Again, they oppose those new nuclear plants like the one we're exploring in my own riding, Speaker, or small modular.
I apologize to the minister. I will caution the comments that I'm hearing in the opposition side. If it happens again, someone will be warned. Back to the minister.
Speaker, these are factual projects that the government's investing into nation build at a time when we've got to stand up for Canada, stand up for Ontario, and support our workers. We're making the investments to build a better tomorrow for our grandkids, and we're not going to apologize for that, Speaker.
Final supplementary, the Leader of the Opposition.
Everyone in this room and all across this province knows what needs to happen. It is disappointing, to say the least, to see the Premier continue to condone this behavior and to see this Minister of Labour drag working people and their unions through the muck because of his behavior. You know, workers at CAMI, at Ingersoll, or in Brampton and in Windsor are literally putting their lives on the line to save their jobs. At Titan Tool and Die in Windsor, the workers put their bodies between the trucks taking tools across the border, moving parts south. Meanwhile, all the Premier seems to be worried about is protecting this minister and keeping his gravy train on track. $2.5 billion taxpayer dollars used to fill the pockets of the Premier's insider friends instead of turning around this jobs disaster. If you will not stand with Ontarians, Premier, and fire your minister, why should anyone trust you?
Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the only one dragging unions of this province through the mud is that member opposite. We've seen it on social media when she's tried to invoke their name. They've very promptly reminded her which government is investing in their workers, which is the first government to invest in training centres, to invest in better training. Because, Speaker, those members recognize, Speaker, that when we invest in roads, bridges and highways, when we invest in new nuclear, in Highway 413 and the Bradford Bypass, their members get a paycheck and get a chance at building a stronger Ontario. Yep. You know, for many of us who immigrated here, who were part of a generation that nation built, we're doing that again. That's what this Premier, this government are focused on. Nation-building projects of consequence, and the organised Labour recognize that their members get a better job with a bigger paycheck thanks to the investments of this Premier, this Finance Minister.
Question. The Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And, it's another day and, more news about the $2.5 billion skills development scandal. And some of that news is yesterday the Premier was asked if he or his office intervene on behalf of any skills development clients. And his answer was no. And which is, I think, kind of hard to believe, because in all the scandals that we've seen, like the Greenbelt and Ontario Place, we know that all roads lead to the Premier's office. So my question to the Premier is, because I want him to be absolutely sure, is, in this $2.5 billion skills development fund scandal, does he want us to believe that neither he or anyone in his office, while money was being shoveled out the door to PC insiders, right, to lobbyists, to people who were friends of the government and friends of the Premier, that they had absolutely nothing to do with it?
Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, we've established that skills development funding, supporting rapid training, and the only members that are looking at those affiliations is that member opposite. And we've established it supported funds led by former candidates of the Liberals, but that doesn't matter, Speaker. What matters is the training they're doing. That's what we're investing, Speaker. And we've improved the program since its inception. As I mentioned, I incorporated a risk assessment process that my team and I developed with our ministry officials, Speaker, that incorporates that after selection, that gives the deputy the ultimate final say should the deputy feel that any projects were of high risk, Speaker. This is a back and forth, a dialogue, a relationship that we have to support training in this province. Speaker, we also support the recommendations of the Auditor General and are already implementing it today as we speak. But the reality is, we've got to support training in
Supplementary, the Leader of the Third Party.
Yes, that risk assessment process missed the $10 million they gave to the strip club owner. But we'll talk about that maybe more later. So many of these, Speaker, so many of these people are connected to the Premier, like they're party donors, they're former campaign managers like Corey Tenike. You see them in press conferences and photo ops. Just get onto YouTube and you'll see the Premier with a whole bunch of Skills Development Fund recipients. Some of them that didn't score so well, Minister. So another minister is being protected by the Premier. And I got to figure, why is that? Why is that? In any other job, he'd be gone. But you know what? If all roads lead to the Premier's office, once the minister falls, we know where we're going. So does the Premier actually want us to believe, I should say, that his office and himself, he did not have anything to do with intervening on behalf of any skills fund recipient.
Minister of Labour.
There we go again, the member denigrating hospitality sector, Speaker. For some of the largest event spaces in downtown Toronto, in a world-class city, front of house, back of house, Speaker, or other priorities this government selected, like carpenters, like operating engineers, Speaker, investing in better training, better equipment to build world-class infrastructure, because the first government to truly build in a large scale is this government, Speaker. The investments we've made, as I mentioned, Union Station today, Highway 413, Bradford Bypass. In fact, the tower cranes we saw in operation just yesterday require high-skilled men and women to operate them, and they need training to do that, Speaker. And this government will continue to invest in new nuclear, in communities like mine, in small modular reactors, in record investments in public transit, every time those members vote against it. It's not surprising that they don't support the training either.
Final supplementary.
Well, I hope the Premier and his caucus have a great chiropractor, because it's going to take more than one session to fix their necks from looking the other way for so long. Okay? This $2.5 billion Skills Development Fund scandal smells. But Keel Digital Solutions, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Well, we know the minister's in conflict because his friend was lobbying for them. And we know that the ministry said they're going to buy their own software from themselves, and that we know it underwent an audit, right? And we know it went to a forensic audit, and now it's at the OPP anti-racket squad. So my question for the Premier is, are the Premier and his office incompetent, looking the other way, or complicit?
All of that. The Minister of Colleges and Universities.
Thank you, Speaker. As I've mentioned to that member opposite yesterday, within 24 hours of receiving the forensic audit, we recommended it to go to the OPP at that point. But again, Speaker, I'll tell the member opposite the investments we are doing into our publicly assisted post-secondary system. Through Budget 2025, which I'll remind that member he voted down, we invested another $1 billion into the post-secondary system. That's on top of the $1.3 billion we invested last year into the system. Almost $2.5 billion we've invested into post-secondary in the last 18 months. Some of those investments include, $750 million into new STEM seats, another $75 million into construction-related seats, skilled trades and planning, $56 million for another 2,200 nursing seats, because we know we need more nurses, as well as $55 million for more teaching seats. There'll be another 2,600 new teachers coming online by 2027. Speaker, we'll continue making those strategic investments while the member opposite is no help to anyone.
Question, Leader of the Third Party.
I'd just like to remind the minister that while they were shoveling out money out the door from the Skills Development Fund, he let go 10,000 people from our colleges. I just want to remind him of that. So, my next question, Speaker, is for the minister responsible for the Treasury Board. And we know, Speaker, we know that Keel Digital Solutions was the subject of an audit that was later sent to the Treasury Board for a forensic audit. And we now know it's with the OPP racket squad. So the question that I have is, number one, when did the audit begin? The date. Number two, when was the audit finished? Number three, when was the Treasury Board informed of the need for a forensic audit? When did that audit start? And when was it received? Does anybody have an answer to the question over there?
I'll remind the member to direct your questions through the Speaker. Minister of Colleges and Universities.
Thank you, Speaker. As I just said, I don't think the member was listening. Within 24 hours, we acted swiftly upon the results of the audit and reported it to the OPP. But again, Speaker, let me tell you what we are doing for the system. $1 billion in Budget 2025 went into the post-secondary system. That's on top of the $1.3 billion, the largest investment in over a decade, Speaker. On top of this, we're doing a funding formula review for the sector. We've been listening to the 47 publicly assisted colleges and universities to understand where their needs are, Speaker. But we'll continue to make those investments, whether it's in STEM, nursing, skilled trades. We'll continue to be there for the sector time and time again, as we always have, Speaker. It's the people of Ontario that elected this government because they trust us with the taxpayer funds, Speaker.
Supplementary. Supplementary, the Leader of the Third Party.
You had to give them that money because you starved them for so long that they were going to collapse, and you couldn't let that happen. They fired 10,000 people, Minister. Have you not figured that out?
Through the Speaker.
That's embarrassing in this province. So how is it, so the next question is, how is it that a company under a forensic audit, right, where we're saying, we don't believe what you're telling us, we think you're hiding something, that's what a forensic audit is, in case anybody doesn't know, that they actually got another grant from government. Does anybody talk to each other? Is anybody taking care of the people's money there? Right? What else is going on that we don't know about that you're not taking care of? So just how is it? How is it that they could receive more money when they were in the middle of a forensic audit or that they even audited in the first place? It's like, it's incompetent. How does that happen?
Minister of Colleges and Universities.
24 hours. Speaker, we acted very swiftly upon the recommendation and reported it directly to the OPP, Speaker. But you know what? I'll continue to share the investments we are doing in our post-secondary system, Speaker. $750 million going into 20,000 STEM seats. Speaker, that's 20,000 new STEM grads that are going to come online into our sectors that are needed the most. That's on top of the 70,000 grads we are graduating annually in STEM systems, Speaker. But we have also invested $75 million for 7,800 new seats for construction-related programming. The first few months on this job, I was at AMO. I heard from our municipal partners, and they were worried about planners, a lack of planners in the system, and we invested strategically into the system to bring more planners online, Speaker. We'll continue to make those strategic investments, like the $56 million into nursing seats, the $55 million into teaching seats, Speaker. We'll continue to make those strategic investments.
Final supplementary.
10,000 people lost their job. Young people can't get a course that they need, and this minister's crowing about his record. It's unbelievable. So maybe I'll make this easier for the minister. I asked the date. I'm glad you did it in 24 hours. Was it last November, last December, last March? What? October? When? What are the dates? I don't care that it was 24 hours. That's great. Besides, it wasn't you guys that referred it. It was the public servants because they have an obligation. So stop taking credit for their work, especially when you're overriding it all the time.
Through the Speaker.
Sorry, Speaker. It's just so hard. It's just so hard not to do that sometimes. But what I want to know is, what are the dates, Minister? What are the dates that I asked for? Don't give me 24 hours. When did you know?
Minister of Colleges and Universities.
Thank you, Speaker. Last week, within 24 hours of getting the report back, we reported it to the OPP. I don't think I can be any clearer to the member opposite. Within 24 hours, we swiftly acted upon the recommendation and reported it to the OPP, Speaker. I know he doesn't like to hear it, but we've invested $1 billion. Without the support of the opposition, we've invested $1 billion in Budget 2025. $750 million going into new STEM programming, $75 million into construction-related seats, $56 million into more nursing seats, because after 15 years of Liberal governments, we're continuing to catch up because of the lack of foresight that the Liberal government had, Speaker. We'll continue to be there for the publicly assisted post-secondary system, unlike the member opposite who just keeps speaking down the system, Speaker.
Question, the member from Nickelback.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Ma question pour la ministre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is for the Minister of Health.
Shortage of family physician. 2.5 million Ontarians don't have access to primary care. Yet, the government has introduced a last-minute policy preventing most internationally trained physicians, like those in the galleries today, from applying in the first round of residency placement. Despite the fact that 60% of IMG choose family medicine and have to come and work in underserved community like the one that I represent. Why is the government creating new barriers that will prevent physicians from practicing in Ontario?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. You know, it is hard to square when we see expansions of medical schools in the province of Ontario. Just yesterday, I had the opportunity to speak to the new learners at TMU in Brampton, who are so excited to be able to train in Brampton and ultimately practice in the province of Ontario. You know, our government was actually the government that has expanded primary care access in the province of Ontario with an investment of $2.2 billion. And why are we doing that? Because we know as we train more learners, as we accept more residency students in the province of Ontario, we are going to have opportunities that have been unheard of in the province of Ontario. I am proud of the fact that it was Premier Ford's leadership that has TMU in Brampton today, that in the years to come we will see a new medical school in York Region. We are making and laying a foundation to ensure that people across Ontario who want to train in our medical schools have that opportunity.
We all know that the students at TMU that she's referring to won't be allowed to practice for another 6 years minimum. The IMG sitting in the gallery are practice ready. The government new rules disqualified against internationally medical graduate from the first round of residency application based solely on where they attended high school, a factor that has nothing to do with medical competence. Most of us don't know where our physician went to high school and frankly don't care. But it harms Francophone, it harms immigrants, it harms racialized physicians and Canadians who studied in other provinces like Francophone in Quebec or studied abroad. How does this government justify an exclusionary, non-evidence-based policy that restricts equity in medical training and that will harm patients?
Minister of Health.
Under Premier Ford's leadership, an expansion of 1,290 medical seats in the province of Ontario. Wow. Under Premier Ford's leadership, an expansion of 1,730 residency spots that were not available previously. We are absolutely welcoming the world to Ontario to make sure that as we see our population rise, as we see our population expand, we are ready, we are accepting. You know, when I came in as the Minister of Health, I specifically directed the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario and the College of Nurses of Ontario to quickly assess, review, and ultimately license internationally trained, educated physicians, clinicians. Why did we do that? Because people were waiting too long and they wanted to work in the province of Ontario. We've made those changes. We are now seeing licenses getting granted within 10 days. The system is working. We are absolutely working with...
Question. I recognize the member for Orleans.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Ontario's young people are in crisis. More than 200,000 are out of work. For teenagers, that's 1 in 4 can't find a job. The Skills Development Fund that was supposed to be there to help them has turned into $1 billion boondoggle. The Auditor General found that it's not fair, transparent, or accountable, with politically connected low-ranked projects getting funded over higher-scoring ones. Now, a forensic audit has uncovered tens of millions of dollars in irregular spending, so serious that one recipient was referred to the OPP, the same recipient who took the Minister of Labour to a Leafs game and had him to his Fashion Week wedding in Paris. Now, Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance is supposed to be the guardian of the public purse. So, to the Minister, through you, did he budget for the SDF and increases to the SDF before or after he knew about political interference and the fundraising scheme that has caused such a scandal?
Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, when it comes to the youth of this province who are seeing the uncertain economic times we're in, they're seeing a premier that's got a plan to build. Youth that were abandoned by that party, Speaker, who let apprenticeship rates slide, who turned their backs on working-class men and women of this province. In manufacturing, let's go to another sector. Their high-tax agenda drove out manufacturing, crushing our manufacturing sector. It's this Premier that's cut taxes, this Premier that's created a climate for economic development growth, Speaker, that are empowering young people who are joining new residency spots, new doctor spots, new nursing spots, young PSWs who are getting trained to enter the workforce, Speaker. Many of these programs supported through the Skills Development Fund with one goal: to train. We're going to continue doing that, Speaker, to offer a better tomorrow for Ontario, to nation build, to stand tall on a global stage, to domestic and onshore our supply chains. And, Speaker, we've had no support from the members opposite, who voted against each and every measure we've taken to nation build and to build a strong.
Member for Orleans.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Last week, I took the minister's advice. I visited All Pro Electric in Ottawa, an SDF recipient that's actually working. Young people in trades, real jobs, real skills, no lobbyists, Madam Speaker. Their message to me was clear. Don't let the scandal destroy the program. Clean it up. Employers and trainees who are doing everything right are now terrified that the successful program will be cancelled because of the government's mismanagement and political favoritism. We don't want the SDF to be cancelled, Madam Speaker. We want it to be cleaned up and for ministers to be held accountable. Now, I've always thought that the Minister of Finance was an honourable person. So, Madam Speaker, through you, what measures is he going to put in place to ensure that his budget measures aren't abused by political insiders and a fundraising scheme that's holding down this government?
I recognize the Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, well, why doesn't the member, the honourable member opposite, do something right for the province of Ontario and vote for the fall economic statement? Can you do that? That, Madam Speaker, would be the honourable thing to do. But let me tell you this. You know, is the member opposite voting for the 18,000 new construction jobs at Darlington? New jobs, good jobs in our nuclear energy. No, he's voting against it, Madam Speaker. And while their government was in power, what did they do for the 300,000 manufacturing jobs that left this country? They didn't stand up for Ontario workers. They didn't stand for Ontario businesses. They keep voting no. Which way are we voting? Yes or no? Which way are they voting? No. Which is the right way to go? The answer for Ontario is yes.
I recognize the member for the Bay of Quinte.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Attorney General. Public safety is a pressing concern back home in Bay of Quinte and across Ontario. People want to feel secure, and they want to know that their government is standing up for them. Speaker, under the leadership of the Premier and the Attorney General, our government continues to advance the ongoing work to safeguard Ontario families and communities. This morning, the Ministry of the Attorney General issued a news release on protecting Ontario families by holding impaired drivers accountable. This initiative was built on the recently passed legislation in the Safer Roads and Communities Act 2024. And this release really hit home with me, as just last week I attended a Mothers Against Drunk Driving memorial in Quinte West for Rebecca Beattie, who was killed by a drunk driver at just 22 years of age. Speaker, can the Attorney General please share more information about this legislation and how it will enhance public safety and hold offenders accountable for victims like Rebecca and for families like the Beatties?
I recognize the Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the question from the member of Bay of Quinte, and I am happy to announce that no child should have to bear the weight of a loss of a parent due to impaired driving. That's why our government is evaluating measures that would require impaired drivers to pay financial support if they kill a child's parent or guardian. This work builds on the recent actions of my colleague to crack down on dangerous driving. I can't believe I'm getting heckled on children who are left behind.
For Hamilton West, Lancaster, Dundas.
I cannot believe the NDP are heckling me when we're talking about children who lose their parents due to drunk drivers. This government will build on the work of the Minister of Transportation in the Safer Roads and Communities Act and reinforce our commitment to hold impaired drivers accountable. Madam Speaker, the devastating impact reaches far beyond the immediate loss. It leaves a child struggling both emotionally and financially. We will stand with our children, Madam Speaker. We will hold drunk drivers accountable for their actions, and I will have more to say in the supplement.
Member for Bay of Quinte.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the Attorney General for his response. It is encouraging to see our government continue to take decisive action on serious issues that impact Ontario communities. By introducing measures that protect Ontario families and hold impaired drivers accountable, we are sending a strong message. Reckless driving will not be tolerated. The Attorney General mentioned new measures that would require impaired drivers to pay ongoing child support if they cause the death of a child's parent or guardian. This is a significant step towards ensuring that families affected by such tragedies receive the support that they so desperately need. Speaker, through you, can the Attorney General please share further details on these new measures and whether additional penalties or consequences are being considered to further strengthen accountability?
The Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you again for the member from Bay of Quinte. It is true that our province has some of the toughest penalties in North America for impaired and reckless driving. We are doing our part in holding impaired drivers accountable, and as mentioned, as part of the upcoming legislation, we are exploring the best way to improve the system to access financial support for surviving minor dependents of victims killed by impaired drivers. Families already have the ability to sue impaired drivers in civil court, but that's not enough. Additional measures, such as requiring a convicted impaired driver to pay financial support, would strengthen accountability and help ensure children receive meaningful support in the wake of such tragedies. Our province will also explore similar requirements in other jurisdictions, such as Texas, which outline how impaired drivers convicted of intoxication manslaughter must pay child support to surviving minor dependents. Madam Speaker, we will engage with impacted stakeholders, including victims' families, legal experts, law enforcement, and community partners, to help evaluate the most effective approach. Madam Speaker, under the leadership of the Premier, we are going to make a difference in the lives of children.
Recognize the member from Niagara Falls.
Thank you. My question is to the Premier. The Patients Ombudsman new report raises serious red flags about long-term care. Quality of care is now the #1 long-term care complaint, and 25 mandatory reports were filed because residents were put at risk. 4 out of 5 seniors who complained about hospital discharge felt it was premature and unsafe. Instead of fixing the system, the government passed Bill 7 to push seniors out of the hospital faster. Seniors built our province. They deserve safety and respect. Speaker, given the Ombudsman's clear warning, what immediate steps will the government take to fix long-term care and ensure seniors are safe and have the support they need?
Recognize the member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Thank you, Speaker. One thing I can guarantee everybody: the long-term care homes of today are not the long-term care homes of 2018 that were inherited by this government. There's more staff to reach 4 hours of care per resident per day. There's air conditioning. There's sprinkler systems. We have over 24,000 new and reconditioned long-term care beds in this province. Our government has been taking real action to improve and strengthen Ontario's long-term care sector, ensuring the safety and well-being of every resident. That's why we introduced the Fixing Long-Term Care Act in 2021, the most robust safety framework in North America, providing new enforcement tools and enhanced accountability measures. Under Premier Ford's leadership, we've invested $72.3 million to double the number of long-term care inspectors in this province.
Back to the member for Niagara Falls.
Well, that member is right. In 2018, the RCMP wasn't investigating or wasn't called into the long-term care homes in Oshawa. Back to the Premier. This government can pat themselves on the back all they want, but the facts don't lie. This government just set a record, the highest number of complaints to the Patients Ombudsman ever recorded. And it's no coincidence it happened while the government is privatizing Ontario health care. We saw during the pandemic that private long-term care homes perform much worse than public, not-for-profit homes. Yet the Premier is doubling down on investment-led, for-profit long-term care homes. Why is the Premier letting the conditions in long-term care homes get worse through privatization? We need to protect our moms, our dads, our aunts, our uncles, our grandparents in long-term care homes today and going forward. Thank you.
recognize the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. You know, as usual, this member leaves out some important facts. And the facts are that we've actually expanded the Ontario Patient Ombudsman's responsibilities. Why? Because we know that as we expand across Ontario, we want people to be protected. We want people to have pathways to ensure if they have questions, if they have complaints, they know that they can go to the Ontario Ombudsman. And I thank him for his work, because it is important that people understand what services we are expanding in the province of Ontario, what is available, and yes, when you have questions, comments, or concerns, and an independent patient ombudsman is there to assist you. Thank you for your work.
Question. I recognize the member for Don Valley East.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, may I begin by complimenting you on your spectacular transformation of the legislature. Between the decorations, the trees, the cheer. It's a reminder that Christmas is almost here. Now, no one can deny that Christmas is a time for friends and family, but some members in this House have taken that a little bit too closely to heart. Whether it's the Minister of Labour and his longtime buddies, the Premier and his business associates, only the friends and family of members in this House seem to be getting ahead, while everyday Ontarians are getting left behind. Yesterday, members in this House had a chance to stand up for everyday Ontarians, to introduce a youth wage subsidy that would increase the number of youth jobs, and every Conservative member in this House voted no. So my question to the Premier is, in an affordability crisis, why is it that the only people to get ahead are the Premier, the Minister of Labour, and Corey Teneycke?
Minister of Labour.
Speaker, thank you. Yes, the Christmas spirit is alive and well, and appreciate the work you've done with the legislature, Speaker. Speaker, we all share a common commitment to advance opportunities for youth. And I want to say, members opposite talk about a wage subsidy. Through successive rounds of the SDF, that was incorporated to support youth. Youth like Youth Employment Services. Tim Lang, he was here the other day, does some incredible work to support youth in downtown Toronto, Speaker. Some of the most marginalized youth, to give them better training for better jobs, Speaker. Or Chris, member of Carpenter's local Speaker, whom I met the other day, who spoke about the opportunity to actually enter an apprenticeship. Where is he today? He's had a certificate of qualification. He's a certified Red Seal apprentice, Speaker. Great story. And who are they going to... I know the member is keen to stand up. Hopefully he's as keen to stand up and raise up the buildings we're building that those carpenters are going to work on through building a stronger Ontario and support our fall economic statement.
Back to the member for Don Valley East.
Madam Speaker, Christmas also means time with family, exchanging gifts, and playing games like Monopoly. Monopoly is a game where ordinary players go around and around collecting $200 while one person snatches up all of the property for housing and jacks up the rent. That person's name is Mr. Moneybags. Sound like anyone we know? So Ontario has now become a game of Monopoly, where the Premier is snatching up the Science Centre, Ontario Place, the exhibition grounds, so that he can reward his friends and leave the rest of us behind. Now, I actually got my hopes up the other day, because yesterday the Premier said he would steal our idea to rebate the HST on primary residences for all home buyers. And then he said the Minister of Finance won't let him. Why does why does the Premier have every excuse in the books not to fix the affordability crisis unless he...
Through you, Madam Speaker, first of all, I want to thank him for his question. I have the best finance minister this province has ever seen, ever. He's a prudent fiscal manager, because the foundation of everything we do in healthcare and education and infrastructure is one thing, is our economy. And you saw last month when the country created 65,000 jobs, 55,000 people were created right here in Ontario out of the 65,000, bringing home a better paycheck, a bigger paycheck. But let's talk about monopoly here for a minute. I can't even believe we're even communicating. But you know something? They treated this province like a monopoly game for 15 years. They sold Park Place. They had the get-out-of-free jail card. I don't know if you're the campaign manager or whatever the hell he was, that actually went.
I'll ask the I will ask the Premier to withdraw.
Yeah, withdraw.
Question. I recognize order. I recognize the member for Guelph.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Premier.
For Waterloo.
Times are tough. Over 700,000 Ontarians unemployed, and now electricity prices up a whopping 29%. We can create good-paying jobs and reduce electricity prices in Ontario if this government would end its ideological opposition to the global green energy sector. I spent last week visiting companies that are creating good-paying jobs right now in Ontario, unlocking prosperity in the $8 trillion clean economy. But to grow generational jobs, they need a government that has their back. So, Speaker, will the Premier say no to increasing electricity prices with U.S.-fueled dirty gas plants and American high-priced SMRs and say yes to good-paying generational jobs with Made in Ontario?
Minister of Energy and Mines.
Madam Speaker, we are saying yes to the largest nuclear build-out in Canadian history. We are investing in the Bruce C project that will add over $100 billion to the national GDP. We are supporting the Pickering nuclear refurbishment, which the former Liberals and the Greens for sure would have closed. We are committed to building the largest net new nuclear generator on Earth. If the member opposite wants to advance clean and affordable and reliable power, then they will commit today. All opposition members will affirm today their strong support for our nuclear build-out that adds value to Canada. Technology that is Indigenous to the nation, a supply chain that is built with 90% Canadian business. The obvious thing is to say yes to the nuclear energy built right here at home in Ontario.
Back to the member for Guelph.
Speaker, it's understandable why electricity prices are going up a whopping 29%, listening to the minister's answer. Nuclear costs 2.5 to 3 times, new nuclear, 2.5 to 3 times more expensive than low-cost wind, solar, and storage. This government is doubling down and locking us in on U.S. technology with their SMRs, locking us in to being dependent on U.S. enriched uranium, increasing climate pollution by 400%, locking us in on U.S. fueled gas plants instead of made in Ontario low-cost renewable energy, the cheapest energy in the world now. That's why $2.2 trillion, double what's going into fossil fuels, is being invested in it right now. Will the government say yes to lower electricity prices and yes to good-paying generational jobs?
Back to the Minister of Energy.
Madam Speaker, the problem with the Liberal Party and those of the Greens is that you said yes to paying 10 times above market for renewable energy.
Speaker.
You pay 80 cents to a kilowatt hour. Madam Speaker, to suggest the triumph of ideology over affordability, they enabled a party that increased hydro rates $1,000 a year. Literally, it is the greatest liability cost to the people of Ontario for families and seniors. And frankly, you should be ashamed of defending that record. This Premier came in with a plan to stabilize the rates. energy has been at or below inflation. There is no commodity cost on earth that has maintained that discipline.
Don Valley North
We
will
launched
come
the
to order.
largest energy efficiency program in the history of Canada, a 2-to-1 saving for the people of Ontario. But what this does expose is that the Greens, who adjusted their platform this year, the NDP, who adjusted their platform to be in favour of nuclear, it demonstrates yet again you would shut down every nuclear asset, you'd kill 80,000 jobs, you'd increase energy rates, you would destroy the industrial policy of this province, and we won't let that happen.
Question. I recognize the member for Kitchener-Hespeler.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Seniors and Accessibility, our very own super senior who has spent over 3 decades in public service following a previous entire career in social work and education, and who, as we heard, is celebrating his 89th birthday today. A very happy birthday to you, Minister. Speaker, seniors bring so much to our communities. Their experience, their volunteer work, their leadership. We all benefit when they stay active and connected. In Cambridge, we recently held a seniors active living fair, and it was a great way for people and seniors to learn about programs that help them stay engaged. And I want to thank the organizers for putting on such an incredible event. Speaker, can the minister share more about how our government is expanding the seniors active living fair program across Ontario?
I recognize the Minister of Seniors and Accessibility.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for raising important questions. You know, I met many seniors at the fair in your riding, and many seniors told me that their MPP is doing great work for seniors. Thank you. Under the leadership of Premier Ford, our government expanding the number of senior active living fairs. And this year, we'll have 102 in-person senior fairs across Ontario, touching every region in our province. We are making sure that our seniors can access information in the way they want, helping them stay fit, active, and socially connected. In this way, we are giving seniors the dignity, respect they deserve. Thank you.
Back to the member for Kitchener-Hespeler.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you again to the Minister for his response and all of his work. Speaker, seniors, like our Minister, help build this province, and they're still contributing every single day through their experience and their involvement in our communities. When we support them in staying active and connected, everyone benefits. In Kitchener-South-Hespeler, many local groups have relied on the Seniors Community Grant Program to run activities that bring seniors together and keep them engaged in community life. Speaker, can the minister tell us more about the Seniors Community Grant Program and the impact that it is having across Ontario?
Back to the Minister for Seniors and Accessibility.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you to the member for another excellent question. Our Senior Community Grant Program provides local community groups with grants of up to $25,000. Last year, we were able to give over 300 grants to support these programs and activities. These organizations are helping our seniors stay fit, active, socially connected. The window is open until December 18 for the community group to apply for next year's grant. Together, we can help ensure that our seniors live with the dignity, respect, and they deserve. Thank you.
Question. I recognize the member for Scarborough Southwest.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, the Eglinton LRT passed 15 long years in the making and still no opening date. Families along Eglinton, Ontarians, are tired of this government spending their tax dollars without any accountability, any transparency. They want a clear opening date. So my question is simple. Minister, when will the Eglinton LRT open?
I recognize the Minister of Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yesterday, we marked the opening of Mount Dennis Station, which is also on the crosstown line, making incremental steps towards ensuring that we are getting transit ready. A member that lives near Mount Dennis, what would have taken him close to 40 to 45 minutes to get to Union Station will now take them only 16 minutes by jumping on either the Kitchener line or the Up Express to get to the airport or downtown to Union Station, Madam Speaker. This is real change that are bringing to people and neighbourhoods across the area, and will continue to ensure that we open it when it is reliable and safe to do so.
Back to the member for Scarborough Southwest.
Before the minister and the government pats themselves in the back, I just want to make sure you all understand the 2 stations opened for GO. The Eglinton Crosstown Station opened for GO and UP Express, yet the LRT itself has no opening date. The line is not open. So let's correct, let's have facts here. They blew their latest September deadline and had to pause testing because of Metrolinx's own failures. There are serious concerns, questions about major construction deficiencies, tracks that were actually built wrong. Metrolinx is clearly withholding information. And Metrolinx has been doing this for so long. Ontarians are so fed up. So again, to the minister, is he going to give us a straight answer, or is Metrolinx withholding information from him and his government as well?
Minister of Transportation.
Madam Speaker, as that member knows and that we have stated on numerous occasions, construction is complete on the entire line. There are no more civil works that are happening. It is simply in the testing and commissioning phase, Madam Speaker, and we will continue to do it, ensure that it is a safe and reliable system. Last year, the team at Metrolinx and GO and Up Express had a record year. It's a record month, 7.5 million rides combined between both the GO and Up Express. That is a ridership record, Madam Speaker, because we're investing in public transit, which the members of the NDP and Liberals oppose every chance they can. Whether it's $70 billion investments, whether it's the One Fare program, Madam Speaker, the Liberals and the NDP have voted against it every single time. One Fare, for example, Madam Speaker, if you're a member that is getting now onto the station at Mount Dennis, you don't have to pay 2 fares. You jump on the Up Express, get onto the TTC, you're only paying 1 fare, Madam Speaker. That's transformational, and that's what we're delivering.
Question. I recognize the member for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Premier. Crippling gridlock is punishing commuters and suffocating the GTHA. This crisis is holding our economy hostage, with congestion alone costing $44.7 billion annually. Instead of prioritizing solutions to this urgent issue, the government is wasting taxpayers' dollars again on a $9.1 million feasibility study for his tunnel vision on the Highway 401, an idea that has already raised safety concerns. It gets worse. The company hired to do the feasibility study is being sued by the City of Toronto for alleged design errors on the Gardiner Expressway project, with claims up to $36 million. My question to the Premier, how can we trust this government to build a $100 billion tunnel when every major transit project is delayed, over budget, and no end in sight? Stop the dreaming. Stop the
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know where to start, but let's look at the record of the previous Liberal government. 15 years, they did absolutely nothing, Madam Speaker. Not a single transit system, not a single road, highway, bridge to speak for. Guess what? We've got shovels in the ground on 5 priority subway projects, $70 billion of public transit across our Metrolinx projects that are happening. Like I said last month, 7.5 million riders on GO and Up combined. That is a record that we have set because we're investing in public transit, Madam Speaker. $56 billion is the cost of gridlock to our economy, Madam Speaker. That's why we're putting forward solutions that will make a difference. Unlike the previous Liberal government that didn't put a single shovel in the ground, didn't get anything built. That's why we're getting shovels in the ground, and that's why we're building for the future.
Back to the member.
Let's try this again. Last Friday, I was at Scarborough Town Centre helping light the Christmas tree, and I found myself wishing that the Eglinton Crosstown LRT would finally open by Christmas Day. But here we are, still waiting, still hearing excuses, and still seeing no progress. Madam Speaker, for example, the Scarborough subway extension is currently plagued by a stock boring machine, leaving us in the dark about the project status and transparency. Where is the machine? This is not the first delay project in transit portfolio. All high priority transit project under this government is delayed. We are frustrated. So I ask the Premier, if you can't even tunnel the Scarborough subway extension that is 7.8 kilometers long, how on good earth can you manage a complex tunnel connecting Mississauga to Toronto, which spans approximately 50 to 55 kilometers? Wake up, people! Yeah.
I recognize the Minister of Transportation. Order! Order. Minister of Transportation.
Madam Speaker, I don't even know where to start, but you know what? I thank the member for their question. But we've got priority transit projects in this province because the Premier put a vision forward to get those built. Guess what? We've got shovels in the ground in every single one of those projects. The former Liberal government has nothing to speak for when it comes to transit or highways in this province. They got absolutely nothing done. They didn't invest in these infrastructure projects, but we're fixing that. And we've got shovels in the ground. And that's why we're building the Ontario line. That will have 400,000, that will move 400,000 people every single day. That's why we're building the Scarborough subway extension in that member's area of Scarborough, Madam Speaker, which they voted against. That member who lives in Scarborough, rides transit in Scarborough, voted against the Scarborough subway extension. The people of Scarborough were ignored for too long, but the Premier and this government changed that. And that's why we're investing in Scarborough and we're investing in rapid transit for Scarborough. Thank you, Madam Speaker.